Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Chicago Bears are headed to Las Vegas. I am headed to Las Vegas as well. Former colleague Rich Campbell, he can't come. What happened, Rich? I thought we were going to make this happen.
Well, we did luck out and get Bears against Raiders in London. So I'll be thankful for that. I'll be grateful for that. And I will say also, my high school buddies are all going out to Vegas for the Washington football team game in December. I am going to that one as a bit of a bash. But yes, this weekend, oh boy, at the owners' meetings, 4 years ago when they moved, or, the Raiders move to Vegas was announced or approved, and we were at the Biltmore in Arizona, and there were Oakland Raider fans that were showing up on the property trying to get the attention of Raiders brass, and you and I are sitting there looking at scheduling formulas going, okay, what year are they going to go there?
but here's
this is game 17.
That's what I was going to say. Here's the twist on that. When we did those computations, we said
it was the London trip.
We said, well, it was going to be the London trip, but oh wait, they're still going to be staying in Oakland for that year. Yeah. It's not going to be till 2027 that the Bears play a road game in Las Vegas. Then the NFL owners get greedy. They say, give us more money, give us a 17th game. That puts the Bears in the AFC West for this year, and it allows this trip to Vegas to go down. I got to be honest, I'm a little bit tired because of things going on in my personal life. There's cities I'd much rather be this weekend than Las Vegas, but I'll probably figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you can rally. I believe in you. Yeah, I remember us doing that calculation, and there was that uncertainty of whether Oakland would let them play in Oakland 2018. And we were saying, look, play them at UNLV, play it at a high school field, as long as we could stay at the Strip, we don't care where they play. And then they sent us to London instead. It worked out just fine.
Quick programming note: Waddle and Sylvie, friends of the program from ESPN 1000, will be doing their show Saturday afternoon from Vegas. It was supposed to be Friday afternoon. The White Sox made the playoffs. ESPN 1000 has to broadcast the White Sox game on Friday afternoon. So it will be Saturday at Circa downtown. I'm going to try, as long as I have no travel delays, to get to my hotel, check in, get in a taxi or an Uber down to Circa, and join them for that show. So anybody that's going out to Vegas, come on down to Circa. I believe it's free, and you can hang out at Circa and listen to some Bears talk, which is we're going to get into now because it's a very intriguing week for the Chicago Bears, as you know. Full-time promotion for rookie quarterback Justin Fields. 2 days after Matt Nagy sat at the podium at the PNC Center at Hallis Hall and said, Andy is our 1 when he's healthy. Justin's our 2, Nick's our 3. Came back and said, scratch that. Justin Fields, starting quarterback this week, next week, the week after that, and hopefully until 2030. Your initial reaction to the about face and to me, what comes across as a logical decision for a team that needs to start prioritizing its future.
Right. So when the news is announced, when Nagy says that, you go, okay, yes, you got it right. But the about face is what is puzzling, and it makes you just wonder about the mechanics of that inside Hallis Hall.
Yeah.
And look, like nothing necessarily that happened with that needs to affect final decisions that come down after week 17. Everything that happens from week 17 onward, all of that's going to be built now, right? So from this point on, or the last 2 games on, that's what you get to measure Justin Fields' progress by and whether Matt can develop him. But very strange. And it goes back to your points you've made, not just this year, but for years, about the processes of the organization, the capability, the acumen of people running the organization. How do you do this? How do you hold people accountable? What's your vision? How do you stick to that? It's possible that Matt was just trying to, you know how he operates, and a lot of head coaches, they try to throw off the opponent during the game planning sessions of Monday and Tuesday. It's ridiculous. Anyhow, that's where it left me.
Well, you heard rumblings as early as the summer in league circles about this sort of perceived lack of clarity at Hallis Hall and what Matt felt like he needed to accomplish in 2021 to retain his job. And I always sort of stopped there and said, look, I understand the philosophy of starting Andy Dalton out of the gates because it gives Justin a longer on-ramp. We've seen success of quarterbacks that have had a little bit more time to develop behind the scenes and learn what they're seeing from NFL defense, learn how to establish a preparation routine. What gave me pause was if Matt was playing Andy Dalton strictly out of self-preservation instincts to try to get to 10 wins in a wild card berth, when it's clear that this version of the Chicago Bears, the 2021 version of the Chicago Bears, is not going to win anything meaningful this season. This is not a team that's going to make a deep run in January. It's not a team that's going to win, a conference championship and make it to the Super Bowl. So at that point, you have to say, what is best for our future? And the future of this organization undoubtedly is Justin Fields. And so how do you accelerate his development into becoming a championship level quarterback as fast as possible? This is that, right? He was forced into action because of Andy Dalton's knee injury. The Bears have seen that he can handle some struggle, handle some hardship, bounce back. He's obviously had 2 starts here. One was a disaster, 1 net passing yard, less than 50 total yards of offense for the Bears in Cleveland. They come back and they take a woeful Lions team with a lackluster defense, and they hang 24 on them, but they get a much-needed home win, and it looked better. The offense looked better. So now you say, let's just keep this momentum and this growth going forward and turn Justin Fields loose for the rest of the season. That may come with a short-term setback. They may win a game or 2 less in the next 2 months because a rookie quarterback is going to make some mistakes and not see some things that he should that get you beat. But it's just a logical forward-looking decision with vision to say, let's position Justin Fields to be ready to play at the highest level possible in 2022 and beyond, right?
Right, but what changed about the calculation?
Correct.
About Matt's job security?
That's the question, right? And that's one that requires some additional reporting, some additional work, because if it did come down where there was discussions with people up the food chain that said, listen, you don't have to be a wild card team this year to keep your job. We want to see how you said this a couple seconds ago. How do you develop Justin Fields? And for me, that's what the rest of these next 3+ months are about, right? Like what does the development of Justin Fields look like? What does this offense look like? Do they make progress to a point where you say, boy, that looks different. That looks better. Matt can be trusted with this super talented, young, future franchise quarterback in his hands.
Yeah. And the other side of that is, and we've cited the examples on this show, I mean, Justin Herbert being the most recent one, right? Where you can separate quarterback from coach and go, ooh, we like what this quarterback is, but we need someone else to develop him. So now it's on Matt to prove that he can scheme the offense in a way that brings out Justin's abilities, which was so not the case against the Browns,
right?
Offensive line problems included. And you saw it did a lot better against the Lions. So to your point about building on momentum, let's see the progress. And that goes back to George McCaskey's word and the word the Bears have used, right? You got to see the progress.
Progress and improvement. Yep.
And there's no reason to speak in absolutes right now. What you said about this hypothetical conversation where maybe, Matt is told, look, you don't need to do X, Y, Z to keep your job, right? There's no reason to speak in those absolutes. If you're George, you just want to see it, right? And it's up to him to make the decision. And it's totally fair for George to go to Matt. And I'm not saying they did this. I don't think they have these conversations. But if you're George, you're thinking, look, I want to see this coach work with this quarterback. Yeah, that's what I want to see. Right. I'm not promising him one thing or another. I want to see him do it.
Right. Put him to the test, right? Yeah. And see where it takes him. You mentioned the improvement against the Detroit Lions. There was one important change going into that game. Matt handed over play calling duties to offensive coordinator Bill Lazor. Bill Lazor, in turn, dedicated the Bears offense to the run early on. They ran the ball on 9 of their first 12 plays on the 12-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. That commitment to the run got the offensive line feeling confident. It got Justin Fields in a rhythm. It opened some things up with the play action game, and it opened some things up just generally because now a defense has to account for a running game, and they can't just play coverage on you and make you try to beat them with the pass. Things opened up. And so there were some plays that were made down the field that we're not used to seeing. And so now, to your point about Matt trying to set Justin Fields up for success, he doesn't have to do it alone. And I think hopefully that's a lesson he learned by saying, if I delegate, if I entrust Bill Lazor to be a guy that can call the plays, can earn the trust of his quarterback, can establish that connection, then it doesn't really matter if I'm the guy holding the giant card sheet on the sideline and shouting the plays into the headset. If we win and the offense looks productive, all those results are going to reflect on me as the head coach. And at the end of the day, that's what matters more than how many of your fingerprints are all over the game plan.
Well, you're describing a utopia right there, an ego-free utopia, and it doesn't always exist in the NFL. In fact, I would say it rarely exists. So if Matt can put that aside, and it's not even necessarily ego as much as it is personal ambition. He wants to be at the controls, right? But here, buttons, shifting gears and all that. If he has to relinquish that, there is an implied acknowledgement of failure there. That's tough. That's tough for a guy who, wasn't that mind, that play calling guru on his ascent to become a head coach. And so this was his proving ground. But I mean, we're in this long enough, right? I mean, we know what this is. And we saw it last season as well, as when the Bears became more run oriented and Nagy, he likes to muddy the water about who's calling plays, because I can understand this from the Bears' perspective, that it distracts from just the end product, right? It doesn't matter who calls the play. It's about what play is called. But it does matter who's calling the plays. And so you saw this last year when they relied on David Montgomery. It opened things up. I think you saw that against the Lions in particular. Not only they don't have as good a pass rush as, let's say, the Browns, but it slows down the pass rush, even when you're not in the play action game.
Right.
If you've got to read run pass coming off the ball in the first third of the down, it slows you down as a pass rusher. And you saw Justin Fields on his best throws all day in the pocket, able to see the field, able to let some downfield routes develop. And he's got the arm talent then to drop a ball in to Darnell Mooney, to hit Allen Robinson on an in-breaking route, beyond 15 yards. And that's where it becomes exciting.
So there's a couple things that happened Sunday that I wanted to pick your brain on a little bit. One of them was the, establishment of the downfield passing attack. Fields had 5 completions of more than 20 yards. In some NFL cities, that draws a shrug. In Chicago, it's like, whoa, what was that? They're able to attack down the field and hit some throws. Deion Miller and I, a couple days ago, talked about the ability for folks in Chicago, fans, media alike, to be able to process this through honest eyes, right? And not be so enamored because something is rare in Chicago, it makes it elite in the league. And so I wanted to pick your brain on that question, because it seemed to be like there was this instinct and this urge of folks to say, because Justin Fields was completing passes for more than 20 yards, that somehow those plays were spectacular or extraordinary. And I go back through them and I say, those are good plays, right? Those are good plays that, high-level quarterbacks make in this league on a consistent basis. But let's not sort of place them on this elevated platform as something special. And I'm just curious how you react to that and how that can inform our analysis of this entire operation going forward in a situation where people are I think, magnetized to hope and belief more than they are to honesty.
Yeah. The word that comes to mind for me here in this discussion is consistency. It's fantastic to see the flashes. Well, how many guys have you seen those flashes from?
Right.
Certainly Mitch, right? I mean, Mitch made some throws that we could all look back on. Well, hey, in his early in his career against the Ravens in overtime in his rookie season.
Yeah.
Anticipating receivers coming into downfield windows, things like that he did, but it's about consistency. So consistency, let's say, is step 3, step 4, but you've got to have the ability as step 1. Yeah. And I think what we saw last week was step 1. You just have to keep that in perspective, right? Okay, great. Let's point these things out. Now we see what he can do, in a small sample. We've got to see it again. And again and again. And so to continue with this, there's always degrees of difficulty on some of these throws.
Right.
He had the one throw that Darnell Mooney had to really extend for. It was going away from the press box, so right to left on the TV screen. That I think it was Mooney that had to extend for.
Play action wide open, right?
Yeah, right, yeah. Right. So the ball wasn't on him.
No.
The ball's away from him there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, great read. The timing's good. You're going to want, Matt and Justin are going to look at that play and go, hey, that's got to be a better ball, because now you can get yards after the catch. The long ball that he dropped in the bucket to Mooney, fantastic throw away from the defender to the boundary in a place only where Mooney can catch it. And boy, their chemistry was fantastic in that game too. That's another good one. The degrees of difficulty, however, increase when he's under pressure. He's got to create. Right. He's got to move off his spot. To me, what was so surprising or novel was, oh my gosh, here's a Bears quarterback who's in the pocket, and he's 1, he's 2, 3, still no pass rush. Right? Step into your throw. Every quarterback in the NFL should be able to execute like that, but I want to see it when it's off script. And it's not to take anything away from him, but to your point, perspective is key. Let's see him continue to do it again.
Yeah, you mentioned the one up the sideline, the right sideline to Darnell Mooney. It's not a perfect throw. It's a good throw. It's a probably better than good throw, but it's not a perfect throw. If it's a little bit further down the field, Mooney scores a touchdown on that. And so just because the ball doesn't sail 3 yards long and 2 yards out of bounds like Trubisky was known to do with guys that were open doesn't mean that it's somehow this like breakthrough throw. The 64-yarder that Fields completed to Mooney, I give him credit for, number one, identifying what the defense was doing. The second safety starts coming down a little bit before the snap. He recognizes that he's going to have time with Mooney on the right side. He uses his eyes to hold the deep safety, and then throws a pass down the field that Mooney catches and gets, I think, about 21 yards after the catch on that. That's a really good throw. It's a really good recognition. But again, this isn't something like, whoa, there's not 4 quarterbacks in the NFL that can make that throw, right? And so that's why when you're trying to figure out whether Justin Fields can be a star, right? People in Chicago want him to be a star. They don't want him to just be this middle tier guy that keeps them around 9-7, 8-8 for 6 years, and then they cut him loose. They've done that a bunch of times, right? Yeah. If you want a guy to be a star, he's got to make those plays once a quarter, 4 times a game, 5 times a game. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. Let's be clear. I'm bullish on Justin Fields' future. If I've learned anything about him in the 4 months that he's been here, 6 months now almost, it's that there is a steady self-confidence that's always there, like a sense that I belong and my work that I put in tells me I belong. And it's just this combination of the investment in the process and the self-belief to do things at a high level that leaves an impression on you and says, this is going to be infectious on teammates. It's going to allow you to endure struggle like the Browns game and come back from it quicker than a guy like Mitch Trubisky was known to do. It's going to allow you to make plays on a regular basis. So I feel very strongly about the future of Justin Fields. I just want to be careful. Again, we've got the reputation as the pump the brakes guys in Chicago. This is a time to pump the brakes and not just see every 20-plus yard gain as some breakthrough elite moment, because you're going to need to do a lot of that to win at a high level.
Well, I got a couple things to say about that. Back when Mitch was going through this, you talked a lot about standards, right? Standards of the fan base, and that's what we're talking about.
Right,
here, right?
That's it.
The standard fan base. Look, it's not their fault. This is what they've been served. Right. you get served bland mashed potatoes every Sunday for 25 years. You get a little pepper on that and you go, oh, wow, there's something else out there. So
somebody brings you a loaded baked potato, right? With chives and sour cream and a whole thing of things that you can put inside it.
You scarf that down. So it's not their fault, but it's just something to keep in mind. The other thing to say about this is that, there were times when Mitch Trubisky would have a successful play, what looked like an effective throw. And then you would talk to people in the building about a play and they'd say, yeah, that was fine, but what he really missed was this guy. Go back and watch it and you'll see this. And you'd go back and go, oh, that 10-yard gain was a 30-yard touchdown if he went to this guy, right? And I'm not saying that Justin Fields isn't, if you've got a hierarchy of outcomes for a play, that in the Lions game, he wasn't hitting the top possible outcome every time. But that's just one of the things you got to keep in mind, is that for whatever we see, we don't always see the construct of the play. We observers who are not part of the scheming and the game planning, the design. And so just keep that in mind. I think the more he completes the ball down the field, you can safely assume, okay, that's the number one outcome here. And that's great. I want to see him just do it consistently. That's it. And then, of course, where do quarterbacks make their money? And this is another thing, if we're talking about standards, where are you measuring these guys? Third down, red zone, right? That's how it works. So continue to look at that.
The Bears were 1 for 8 on third down against the Lions. They scored 24 points against a defense that came into the game allowing 32 a game. And so that's what I'm saying, right? Like, did they make improvement Absolutely. Was it a breakthrough? No, right? Like if you had played that same game against the Cleveland Browns, the results are going to be different. So you always have to take the quality of the opponent into account. It's like when I go shoot the low 80s on a golf course, that's very easy. That doesn't mean I'm ready to shoot the low 80s on a golf course that's challenging, like the Governor's Club in Nashville, where we went. Right. I guess it's just outside of Nashville. But that, that's my point, right? Like you have to measure degree of difficulty in these things as well. And there's going to be much more demanding tests ahead in the upcoming schedule.
So it's about progress, right? And how it looks, right? You're going to feel it. And we've said this all along. You're going to feel it. And, oh, man, there's no better example of that than the Browns game. I mean, you felt it. That was not just a loss on the road, when they were more than the touchdown underdog. That was worse.
Right.
This was a lot better. So now you play a team in the Raiders that looks like a playoff team at this point. I mean, you got to travel. You're 5-point underdogs, 5.5. And so let's see how he handles it.
I'm expecting a supercharged environment at Allegiant Stadium on Sunday afternoon.
I bet the press box is real mellow. I bet it's really like okay. I've been in those press boxes before.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are drunk when that game kicks off.
They will have. It might be a late arriving crowd too. It'll be interesting to see is like they play that 1 o'clock local. If everybody goes to the sports book for the early games, when they get to Allegiant Stadium in time.
Yeah, I plan to get there. I plan to get there very early. I did this at SoFi Stadium in the opener just to spend like an hour walking around the stadium. This is a stadium we have never been to before, and I'm eager to see what this thing looks like. Because also, hey, not too long up the road, the Bears might have to build one of these places, and I want to make a list of amenities that I'd like to see. If we're picking amenities from SoFi in LA. If the Bears could get the filet mignon tacos implemented into their press meal, that was a really nice touch by the Rams.
Very nice.
Don't
count on that. Don't count on that. I can tell you that.
The dry meatball subs haven't been doing it for me at Soldier Field with the bread that might or might not have been made in this calendar year. Not really sure. But those are all side conversations that we can have another time.
Well, and one more is that when I'm going to Vegas for the Washington game in December, we are spending all day Saturday at the Circa Sportsbook. So I want a full scouting report on Circa.
All right. Are you staying there? Or are you staying?
No.
Just rolling down.
Relocating to the book for college football championship Saturday might be a good time. Maybe
that seems pretty fun. So you're going to change that title a couple months up the road here to "Is Going to Vegas." Emoji smiley, and everyone will be happy about it. Well, I'm getting on a flight Saturday morning. I hope to see some of our audience there. If you run into me, say hello. We'll talk about Rich Campbell and his FOMO. That he's
big time. I want to see you on the Tribune Instagram, living your best life.
Yeah, I will try to live my best life as much as possible, and then it's a quick turnaround right back into week 6 next week. You know how it is. It's a grind. Not taking the red eye home though. That's a big mistake. So I'll have an early Monday morning flight home. Maybe give me a little extra time at the craps table Sunday night.
Good luck out there.
Thanks for joining us. As always, we'll talk to you soon.